Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Fuller Kamara. Today I'm going to show you how I use Microsoft Excel solver to find numbers that add to a particular number. Microsoft Excel solver is an add-in program that allows users to perform optimization and what-if analysis in Excel. It helps find the optimal value for a formula in Excel known as the objective cell while considering constraints on other formula cells. Solver adjusts the value in decision variable cell to meet the constraints and achieve the desired result. I'm going to use Excel on MacBook, but if you have a Windows PC, to activate Microsoft Excel solver, you need to open your Excel and click on the file. So once you click File tab, click on Options to open the Excel Options dialog box. In the Excel Option dialog box, select Add-ins from the left-hand menu. In the Manage box at the bottom, select Excel add-ins and click on the Go button. So once you click on the Go button, in the add-ins dialog box, check the box next to Solver add-in and click OK. So that's how to add Microsoft Excel solver. So now to activate Microsoft Excel solver on Mac operating system, you click on data. So once you click on data, you go to the analysis tools. So once you click on analysis tool, you can just click check this solver add-in and click OK. So once you click OK, you will see solver on the menu. So this is how to activate it. If you couldn't see it here, it means you haven't activated the solver. So once you activate solver, normally for me, where I use Microsoft Excel solver, it's mostly on situation where I want to map a trial balance. Maybe the client provide a trial balance, but they did not provide a detailed mapping. So we don't know how they map their trial balance. Even though sometimes you might request the chart of account, but most case it might be very difficult for you to figure out their mappings without having like the detailed mapping. So what I normally do in that situation, if I receive a trial balance without the mappings, if the client can also provide like a financial statement, let's say the balance sheet and the profit and loss account. So if I know like the total amount for, let's say, bank account, because some clients might have like a lot of bank accounts. So in this example, you can see we have only 2 bank accounts, which is easy. So I know these 2 are just the bank account. But in situation where you have like a lot of bank accounts, it might be tricky for you to figure out which one maps to which one. So for bank, it's easy to identify banks, but it becomes tricky whenever you go to the other account, like account receivable, or maybe the profit and loss account. Maybe the client might have like a lot of categories of liabilities. So for you to figure out how those account group, it's kind of like tricky. So if you don't know how to use like Microsoft Excel solver, you might take time to figure out those numbers. In this case, these accounts are sorted according to the balance sheet. So it's easy. I know these are the bank account, and then this is the account receivable. It's just one number, but sometimes you might have like multiple numbers and they might not say AR like other receivable. So in that case, where you have maybe 10 accounts relating to different categories of account receivable. Maybe they might have like receivable from related parties, then they might have a receivable from other employees. So it's very tricky in that case. So you need to have a tool where you can be able to identify those without having to go the manual process. So let's say, for example, the client provided from the look of the financial statement or the balance sheet, I could see a total of $2,001 as the bank account, which is easy for me because we only have two bank accounts. So in this case, I will just select, I know these are the two numbers that add to this amount. But in a situation where they might have like a lot of numbers, maybe they put them in different location rows. Let's say they have another account here which also relate to bank account. Maybe they have like an escrow account, etc. So you might have to figure out which account relate to which one. The tool that I normally use is this solver. So how do we use solver? So to use solver in this case, we need to use the sum product. In order for you to effectively use solver, you first of all have to know there is a limitation for solver. You can do up to 200 rows. So if you have more than 200 rows, solver might not work in that case. How I was able to overcome that challenge in a situation where I have like more than 300 rows, I will look at the numbers that I want to determine. I would group these numbers into different accounts. Let's say, for example, if I'm going to look out for a balance sheet account, specifically I know I'm trying to find bank account. In that case, I know bank account is an asset account. I will narrow down my search to only asset account. Instead of running the solver for the entire balance sheet account, I would just run it for so in this case, what I normally do is I will highlight the rows that I'm working on so that all my selections will be restricted to just these rows. So this is what I would do. So now, since I have highlighted the rows, then I can also use a sum product. Then I will select the first array, which is the amount, and then put comma, and then select the highlight, and then I press shift down arrow. So now I have selected the blank column and then press enter. So once I click enter, so now you can see right now my sum product is 0. So what I'm gonna do now is, this is my target, this is my value, the value I need to determine to use solver in order for solver to find which numbers that total to 2000. You might say, okay, yeah, this is very obvious because now we know if we add this total to 2000. Yes, it is obvious when we only have few amount that add to this. But in situation where you might have like a lot of numbers that add to one account, it might be very useful to use solver than adding individual account, because in some cases you might not even know the numbers that the clients use to map their financial. Because first of all, in mapping, I want to make sure, because if I'm going to do like a completeness test, first I want to make sure I can map our trial balance that we receive from the client. I can map it back to the client mapping, because if you don't map it the way the client has mapped their trial balance, you might end up making some queries, or you might end up disputing numbers which are not accurate. So that's the main goal. First of all, you need to make sure you can map your account according to the client mapping. So once you and the client on the same page, then that's the time you start performing other procedure to see if their mapping makes sense. Because if you start seeing on their mappings, they have like mixing up some liabilities account in the assets account, you might be able to investigate the reason why they have those numbers in the assets group. So, but first, before you can do that, you have to make sure your numbers make sense. Because if you just go and create some mapping that does not match with the client's number and then started querying something, then maybe the client will look at you that, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. So that's the first step. You need to make sure your numbers accurately tie with the client's numbers. So once you can determine that, then you will be able to know why are they mixing up some numbers. Okay, so in this case, so after we've determined the sum product, so now we can open the solver. So we go to data and then select solver. So once you click solver, this window will open. So in the window, you have set objective. So the set objective is the area that is, your set objective should be the sum product where you have the formula. So when you click on this, it should relates to this where you got a formula. So that's your set objective. So you want to set your objective to value. So instead of minimum, you select value. So now we're going to set the cell objective to the value. What is the value? What value are we going to put here? The value should be the target. That is what we are trying to find. So in this case, it's 2001. So this is our value. So let's say if the 2001 was a negative number, we should have added the negative number. But since this is a positive, that's why we don't add any positive. So this is our objective. We want to make sure we have the numbers that we can add in our set objective that add to this 2001. So now the variable, that is by changing the variable cell. So we select the variable cells. So we want to make sure that by changing these cells, we are looking in this range, the numbers that add to the 2001. So that's our variable. We want to look for numbers in the range that we've just selected that add to the 2001. So now we've selected that. So now we are going to add the subject constraints. Our subject constraints, so let's click add on the subject constraint. Since we don't have any subject constraint at the time, so we click add. So now our subject constraint, we are going to select binary, which is BIN. Binary means 0 and 1s. So BIN will be our constraint. So the cell reference will also, we select here to select the cell reference. So the cell reference is also this same highlighted. So that's the reason why I highlight, so that you don't mistakenly select a different range. So that's the range. So now we click OK. So we've added the constraint. So now in our solving method, so simplex LP is what we're going to choose. So now we click solve. So once we click solve, so there are situations when solver will not find any result. In that case, you have to perform maybe alternative procedures. So we click OK to keep the result. So now to find which number, so you can see, so in our objective, remember previously our sum product was 0, 0, right? When we first created the formula. So now you can see we have a result, which is now equal to the number that we were looking for. So now to know the numbers that add to this 2001, in our column that we highlighted, look for cells with ones. So if any cell with ones, meaning those are the numbers that were added. So all with 0, meaning those are the ones that were not included in our formula. So now if we use, let's say if we had like a lot, we can just filter for the ones, then this will be our result. So you see, so now we've got the result as 2001. So now we know these are the numbers that we added to have all the bank accounts. So this is our result. So if we are adding a mapping, so we can just put now our mapping to this, saying these are now the bank accounts. So we know if we are going to create the balance sheet, these are the bank accounts in that case. Let's just expand this. Let's try to find total liabilities using the same concept. So in this case, let's just go to the, the balance sheet has a section called liabilities and equity. So in this case, since we are looking for liabilities, we know we are going to find the liabilities in the liabilities and equity section. So we want to know what numbers that add to this 131. So we just saw that we have the total liabilities as this. They might have long-term liabilities. So if we want to just know the current liability, we can also use the same concept, but in this case we would just want to know the total liabilities. So we're not going to separate. So to find the total liabilities, we're going to use the same. So first of all, we are going to use the sum product. After we've added the sum product, so now we're going to use solver to solve for the minus 31,131. So in this case, the liabilities are on the equity and liability section of the balance sheet. So we're going to focus our search on this yellow highlight. So we use solver to select. So now we're going to select the set objective is this number, which is the sum product, and press OK. Now the amount is minus 31,131. That is the value that we're going to look for. Our range will now be the yellow highlight. So that's our range. And the constraint, we're going to set the constraint to binary. So let's just delete this old one and add a new constraint. So our constraint is binary, and the range will be the yellow highlight. So this is our range. Click OK and now press OK. So next, we're going to use the simplex method, solving method, and click solve. So now that we've selected solve, let's click OK. So now you can see we've found the numbers that add to 31,000 minus 31,131. So let's change this to accounting number. So now you can see the numbers. So now, even though our yellow highlight, if we select just our yellow highlight, we have a total of 21,793. That's our yellow highlight. But now solver has selected the numbers that add to this 31,131. So if we select this, so we're only going to focus our consideration on cells with ones. So cells with 0, meaning they were not included in the count. So now if we look for only cells with ones, so we have this, and this. So now you can see these are the cells that add to this 31,131.33 cents. So this is how you use solver to find numbers, because sometimes in audit or accounting you might have like variances. You want to know what is causing those variances. You can use solver to find those numbers. So thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. See you in the next video. Thank you.